Hello everyone to the new episode Behind the Wealth. We'd like to welcome again one of our staff members, senior accountant with Silver & Young Chartered Accountants, Ilia Dimopoulos, to continue what we started last time about financial planning in different stages of life. Whatever we say here, whatever we discuss here is not a private advice. It's not a personal advice. It is a general advice. And if you have any questions related to the topic we discussed today, please call your accountant or your financial planner or call us on 0296 007760. So, Ilia, welcome back to our new episode. I know I bombarded you with a lot of things. I didn't give you enough chance to ask me more questions. So I'll try to be this time a little bit more disciplined.
Hi, Dimitri. Thanks for having me again. In our previous session, we basically discussed about the different decades. So we did year 20s, the 30s, and the 40s. So today we're going to do the 50s and onwards. I consider this like as the best decade in terms of this like a valuable disposable income, because in that age bracket, probably the kids are old enough to look after themselves if there are kids in the couple.
Correct.
And income-wise, usually people or individuals are on the highest of their earnings in their work. And this is also an age that I think it's the most important age to start preparing for retirement, because you have basically a good 15 years ahead. So it's enough time to do something and see a result, but also retirement doesn't seem that far to people at that age because it's only 15 years and now they have the experience of how quickly time flies. So now they start considering more of what is going to happen to me in the next 10 to 15 years. So it's probably a very good age to see a financial planner. What are the most important things that they should be aware, and why should they see a financial planner?
If you just allow me to say a couple of things about the 50s, because correctly you mentioned that 50s, it's a milestone in our lifestyle. It's the first time, probably not the first time, but the most significant first time that we start looking backwards, what we have done in the past 50 years. Now, when we do the big celebration of 50 from family and friends, looking back what we done for all aspects of our life, not just for money. And I keep saying this, that life is more than money. Life is bigger than just money, to concentrate all efforts about money and wealth creation. So 50 is a critical point for us to consider. And true, you said, the majority of the clients that they come at that stage between 50 and 60 or late 40s to early 50s, the first question they say to me, do I have enough money to retire at that age with so much money for me as a disposable income during retirement? This is usually the first question. But I really think we should take this question a bit further and more holistic. Why is this? Because the 50s are this last period of time that we're still young enough, but wise enough because we have the 20, 30 years experience of life, 40 years in life. Secondly, we already, as you said, we have the family, probably we have the kids are teenagers or they left home or they're very close to be fully independent. So we have some extra capacity, financial and from time point of view, to do other things. But the 50s and the 60s, between 50 and 60, the critical time is that you review not only what you did financially, but what did you do as a person during the last 20, 30 years time? Is the last period of time that you can do things that you haven't done in the early times. And I give you an example. At 50, you are really able, you are still young enough, energetic enough. You need to look after your career. What's going to happen with your career? Now, don't say job, because I hate the word job and I prefer the word career. What do you do with the word career? I mean, you are probably most likely close to your peak, but are you really to your peak? Say, if you, for example, your dream to be a chief financial officer, a CFO in a big company or a medium-sized company, and you're just one level below, this is your last opportunity to push for that achievement. So it's not just money, it is also career satisfaction. And beyond that, what you want to do in a personal life, it is the last time that you have enough youth inside you. This is not a correct statement because I've seen a lot of 70 and 80 years people are younger than 40s and 50s, but you know what I mean. You have enough energy as a young person to consider so many other stuff, inclusive the money. What is the first thing we need to do with financial planning at 50s? It is probably to look where is our equity, how much is our net assets at the moment, or how much is the assets and liabilities, how much money we have and how much money we owe. And also what you're going to do with this money. So if we have a paid off home, do we need to do something? Do we need to use this money or this lazy equity to do something else? Very important stuff is now in this stage is to consider when I'm retiring at 67 or 70 or 65, what is my expectation for my lifestyle? This is very important because if you say I want $100,000, say when I'm 67 on today's money, is a different scenario than if I say I want 60 or if I want $200,000. Also, it is the life protection and the insurance protection that we have placed till now. They're still valid. If the children gone and we don't have the same risk, do we need to have so much life insurance? Or do we need to have life insurance for a different purpose now? Say, for example, yes, I want all my life, my investment properties to be debt-free because if I pass away, I want my wife to be 100% secure. She doesn't need to go to work or vice versa. Then the income protection insurance, do we need to review this? So basically, I don't go to detail one by one, but we need to review our protection plan. Then we need to review our investment plan, and we need to review the superannuation plan again. Why? Because it's the last time we have a critical mass of time, 15 years, to do a small change and have a significant difference at the end of the 15 years. You see, when we were 20 or 30, we have all the time in front of us. A little mistake, it is nothing. We recover 10 times. The more we grow older, it becomes more important if we do a mistake at this stage to have a greater effect than if we were 20 or 30. And that's why a lot of self-development books said, go broke at 20, well, don't be afraid. Go broke at 30, don't be afraid, because you have time to recover. But it's difficult to go broke at 55 or 58.
So I guess in that age, we starting working towards a more defensive strategy rather than working towards a more aggressive.
Strictly speaking, yes. Compliance case, when you go to financial planning, it's very important to consider. But may I say this? I know we're talking about money, but I think, and I refer back to what I said, life is not only about money. When we start life, we start usually as complainers or doers. And let me explain. You are 5 or 10 years old and you always complain that your teacher doesn't look after you, don't pay attention, this, that, you know, your best friend didn't talk to you. You're the complainer. Your homework is too much, you couldn't do it. These complainers usually spend a lot of time and effort in complaining instead of doing things. And there is another type of kids, the doers. They complain a little bit, they're upset a little bit because they don't have the best attention of the teacher, but they go and do the homework and they move on and they move on and they move on. And then what it happens is the doers, they become climbers. They climb the ladder of success. If this is financial success, personal success, spiritual success, personal development success, they climb this ladder. When we are 50, we carry all these positive things and negative things we had from very childhood. So what happens? At 50s, you probably, if you are a climber, you climbed and you succeed. At 50, what happens? You say, oh, look, I haven't done that bad. And also the reflection of your family and the other people when they talk to you, that, yeah, you've done all right. You know, you see where you came from and what you achieved. You know, you've done very well for you and your family. And what it happens? We camping. And what I mean camping? We done and we pushed for 20, 30 years. And now you said, look, I take it a bit of break. I don't push for the next pay rise. I don't push for the next career movement. I don't push for the next investment because, I just want to relax a little bit. But guess what? If you relax for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, it's fine. It's healthy to camp a little bit. The trick at 50s is that you're going to camp for too long, unnecessary. And you miss this opportunity of the 10 years, very healthy, productive years that you're still young, energetic, experienced, because you've done so well in the last 20, 30 years and you gave it all. And then at 50, 55, you said, I just rest a little bit. And then you become 60. And you look back and again and said, for God's sake, what did I do for the last 10 years? I was camping. That's the risk of the 50s have, with not only on the personal life and the personal things that they want to do in life in purpose, as purpose in life, but also with the finance. They bought 1 or 2 properties when they're 20, 25. They've done very well. They capitalized and they did all right. They did the share portfolio, the superannuation is gone, and they left it as it is.
That kind of makes sense because there is a bit of fatigue from all this effort done these years. And as you said, it's right when it happens for a small period. But so I guess where you come in that scenario is reestablishing what the goals are and putting a new plan in place.
Correct. And keep looking for the opportunities. Say, for example, to your plan and to your person who are assisting you, keep looking for opportunities and say, okay, I'm camping a little bit now. Define it. Because the moment you define that I'm camping, irritates you. You can't camp forever. Except if it's your decision, you said, that's it. I'll close the books. Whatever I've done, I switched off. That's fine. If this is your decision and you're happy to live with that decision because what is happening at 50? At 50, you have another 10 years to produce. If you camp for these 10 years and you haven't really become the best that you can be at that stage of your life, what it happens? At 60, then it starts the bag of conservatism, the bag, I don't want to lose what I had. I need to preserve what I had. Then some health issues, some issues with families, health-wise, or other issues, retreat you. It makes you more conservative. And then you go to 65. And then you go to 70. And then what happens, you really camp for half of your life. Between 50 and 90, you really camped and you didn't become the best you could be, not just for money. No, not just for money. Money is important because money is the tool, but not just for money and financial planning and the most effective way of wealth creation, but in your personal life, what you wanted to do. And money is part of that personal life, what you want to do.
So I like how you always make the connection between the personal development, the personal life, and the forces that usually impact all other aspects of a person's life, and obviously the creation of wealth. I think in that age, what I see a lot is that people start thinking about, when they don't think probably a bit earlier, is also considering what's going to happen later. So one is, I see a lot of people that they think about getting a will, and a lot of people that they start thinking of estate planning.
This is a necessary, thank you for the question. This is a very necessary step in our process of any financial planning during that period of life. The reason is a lot of us, a lot of people, they probably have now a second marriage, or they had the marriage and they're alone and they have children, and maybe from the second marriage have, another child or two, or they are in blended families. So this is very important. I mean, the other important thing is relationship with our kids. Sometimes some families, unfortunately, they have kids that haven't talked to them for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, some of them, since, they divorced their ex-wife 20 years ago. Right? So this needs very careful to have a consideration with estate planning legal advice, because the courts nowadays is not as before. You say, okay, I'll leave $10,000 to my strange son or daughter and we fix it up. No, it doesn't work like this. And if you read the recent court cases, the court comes and said, you deprived that child for education, so he has half of the house, you left for the other sibling. And this is real stories. So you need to consider all this, whatever it is your requirement with estate planning. And people, they forget, they think because they fill a piece of paper or a will sometimes by themselves from the post office, they just done the duty. No, if you have a complicated family issue and it's not straightforward, you need to see more specialists than if you have a just straightforward family. You married to the same wife or husband for 40 years and you have together 2 children and everyone is happy and lovely and there's no issues about that. You don't need a complicated estate planning. The other thing is very important beyond the estate planning is your superannuation. Your superannuation are the next 15 years. If it underperforms 1 or 2%, it's a lot of difference over the next 15 years. And do an exercise of compounding interest. It's a lot of difference. And we do a lot, we project. Your superannuation does only 4%, and the projected average, say, it is 6%. This 2% in 15 years or 17 years, if you are, say, 50, and you're going to retire 67, it's a lot of thousands of dollars in today's money. Also, the type of investment you choose to have. Say, for example, if you have an already established SMSF and you are above the $500,000 threshold and you'll be able to have a property, it's not always possible and meaningful to have all your money in property. A lot of times it's not just the only way. Having diversification, having other share of portfolio, or if you have all your money in share portfolio, maybe you consider to have a property. So it is not just one plan for one. It depends what time we do, what age stage we do the review, when you want to retire, how much money do you want to have when you retire, your other assets you have on the peripheral way, your super fund.
I think at that age, especially when for people that they have some considerable amount of super and they have adult kids that they start working or they just started working or they're at the early stage of their career. And because you mentioned the SMSF, is this a good opportunity to bring your kids into your SMSF?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
And is that something you can do?
Of course you can do it. You can bring the kids to SMSF if you have already an established SMSF or you have the critical mass to establish an SMSF. But there are some really points you have to consider, and it's not taken lightly. And I have to say, the first point is control of the SMSF. Who will control the SMSF? Suddenly, if you and your wife is in the SMSF and it comes your daughter, and say your 2 daughters or your 2 sons or your daughter and son, whatever, who's going to control? Because if there is a dominant personality in your children compared to the parents' client, the parents that we established SMSF, they want to drive the agenda, and they will like to drive the agenda because they are successful, they are achievers, but you need to be in peace with that. So if you are not in peace with that, there's no point to bring your children to your SMSF and then have the frustration that you have a different point of view, a different attitude on investment compared to your daughter, for example. The second thing is the divorce case. Of course, if your child comes and has a divorce, this is part of the mix that it goes to the divorce settlement. And if your assets are not liquid enough, say you have a lot of properties and that you have them for a year and they increase in value and you see in a lot of capital gain inside the SMSF, will be a problem to address from tax purpose and also from liquidity. You need to sell an asset to liquid money and then transfer this money to the spouse who is divorcing your child, to the ex-spouse who is divorcing your child. Another issue is after your death, who controls, or after you become incapacitated mentally, who is going to control your SMSF? Before was mom and dad. If something happens to me, my wife will look after the SMSF with the help of their children maybe. If something happens to my wife, I look after. But if my kids are in and they have a vested interest, even a small percentage, then it becomes a lot more difficult to manage the SMSF. So really, it's a great idea for creation of wealth. It's a great idea for put resources together with a family that works very well as a family unit. And it's a very good idea of passing wealth from one generation to another. It's a no-brainer. If I have $1 million in my super and my son has 100,000, or my daughter, and then slowly on my lifetime, I'm going to consume my $1 million in the next 20, 30 years, and my daughter contributes and he makes it up the difference, this asset that we have $1 million property, we transfer to my daughter tax-free, no stamp duty, and really it's a very good way of transfer wealth from one generation to another. Okay, guys, thank you very much for listening to the new episode Behind the Wealth. Please, if you like us, click all the buttons to be a subscriber, and till next time, have a good day.